and the Jewish state is now gearing up for a potential multi-front war, days after a devastating onslaught from Gaza's Hamas regime. Over 1,200 Israelis have been killed in the Hamas attacks so far. On the other hand, more than 950 people have been reported killed in Gaza, which has come under intense bombardment from Israel's retaliatory strikes. Israel has also reported killing some 1,000 Hamas militants who infiltrated the Israeli territory on October 7th. In the latest, former Hamas chief Khaled Mashal called for protests across the Muslim world on Friday in support of the Palestinians. Mashal also called on neighbouring countries like Jordan, Syria, Lebanon and Egypt to join the fight against Israel. The call from the former Hamas leader came shortly after Israeli Defence Minister Yoav Gallant declared that a full-blown ground offensive in Gaza is in the offing. He said that Israel started the offensive from the air, which will be followed by a ground assault. Gallant was speaking to Israeli troops near the Gaza fence, where the Israeli forces say some 300,000 soldiers have been deployed. Moments ago, Israel pounded the Islamic University of Gaza with heavy airstrike. This latest strike comes amid concerns about mounting civilian casualties as Israel bombards the densely populated Gaza Strip. Over 2,300 such airstrikes have been carried out so far on what Israel says are Hamas hideouts. Gazan authorities have just informed that 30 people were killed in Israel strikes overnight. Hamas has also confirmed the death of some of its top commanders in Israeli attacks, but the militant group has nonetheless threatened to begin executing hostages if Israel continues to strike civilian households without prior warning. Hamas is holding up to 150 hostages. These include Israeli and foreign nationals. Civilians in Gaza, on the other hand, are scrambling to flee the narrow strip of land which has been blockaded completely by Israel. Egypt, on its part, is moving to contain the mass exodus of Gazans into its soil. Egypt's military had taken up new positions close to the border between Egypt and Gaza and was running patrols to monitor the area. Israeli bombardments have already halted crossings at the only exit point from the Palestinian enclave. Amid the fresh attacks and counter-attacks, the Israeli forces have confirmed the arrival of the first tranche of advanced ammunition from the US. The United States aid arrived in Israel as President Joe Biden called the attacks by Hamas an act of sheer evil. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is also set to visit Israel on Thursday to meet with senior Israeli leaders in a show of solidarity and support. At least 14 US citizens have been killed so far in Israel, with an unspecified number of Americans missing or being held hostage.
Who are now free is their own determination, their own commitment, their own conviction to continuing this work.
Well, our correspondent Jodie Cohen has been following this very closely from Ground Zero, and she sent us this report a little earlier.
So just behind me you can see another community bomb shelter, and I'm standing here because on Tuesday night there were rockets fired in the south and the centre of the country from Hamas in Gaza, and also in the north of the country from Hezbollah in Lebanon. And on Wednesday morning, for the first time, we've seen shelling from Syria. Now, further atrocities have also been discovered as the fighting with the infiltrators lessens, including finding the bodies of 40 babies, some of whom had been decapitated. A woman was found with her fetus ripped out of her stomach and people burned alive. As a result of this attack was started on Saturday, the IDF is striking Hamas targets. It's very difficult in Gaza for civilians as well. The US is discussing the safe passage for Gazan civilians with Israel and Egypt, both of which have borders with Gaza. Hamas is still trying to get militia reportedly into Israel. Israel wants to restore deterrence and hopefully get the 150 hostages back, most of whom are Israeli, but many come from many countries around the world. The IDF spokesperson said the scenes are very difficult to watch and the fighting will intensify. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World is One.